Good evening, everyone. This is El Rifado, aka Christian Diaz, coming to you from San Diego on the MF podcast, the Mexican Football Podcast. This is going to be episode one that I have the honor of partaking in with my co host, Albert Perez, super journalist from LA Times in Espanol. And I'm blanking on the second one, Albert. You'll have to help me. Go ahead.
The sporting news and a lot of other places.
Big time journalist, Albert. Man, I
Not
appreciate.
big time, not big time, but
I
I
appreciate
try, I try,
you.
I try, I try to stay working.
I appreciate you taking the time to do this podcast with me. The first of many, hopefully. You know,
Hopefully,
yeah. Um,
hopefully.
we
Let's celebrate.
exactly. Thank you for that, Albert. And yeah, this is going to be a podcast, a semi-serious podcast, human, but a little serious about Mexican football, Mexican soccer, and how it intersects with our lives and the lives of millions of other Mexicans Americans, and other people throughout the world. And yeah, we have a great episode in store for you all. Let's go ahead and get started, Albert. What do you got for us tonight?
Rifado, let's remind everybody what the MF also stands for. It's a mamada free zone.
Yes, sir. We're gonna keep the mamadas to a minimum at the very least.
All right. I like that.
But yeah, man, what do you have in store for us today, my
So,
honorable co-host?
So now, with a couple things removed, and looking at it coldly, let's talk about how we feel about El Tri's performance in the 2026 World Cup. I mean, if you ask me, yes, the team didn't break new ground. They didn't make it past the round of 16, which they have been eternally stuck on since 1994. Obviously, in 2022, they didn't even make it out the group stage. So what they did is take one step back, and all they did this World Cup was go back to where they were before. And when I say overachieve, is a lot of people weren't expecting a lot from El Tri. A lot of people were even saying that they weren't going to win the group, they weren't going to get out of the group. And 2 years ago, stuff looked very dire. It was that the team had gotten grouped in Copa America. It seemed Jimmy, Lo, Jimmy Lozano had no grasp on the team. And then you know what they went as the Mexican Football Federation. They went with older, reliable, the problem solver,
El
Javier
bombero.
Aguirre, El Bombero, because that's what he because El Tri was like one of those teams in Spain that was going to the hell of relegation, and that was pretty much El Tri, and they called the guy who knows how to save teams, and he came, and it took him a couple months, but he built a reliable team. Remember he won in he started in September of 2024, and then by March he had already won the Nations League, and then in the summer the Copa de Oro. So it took him. It didn't take him too long to turn things around, and as far as the team's performance, you know what they a lot of people said they weren't going to win the 3 games. I had said they were, and they did, even though the the Korea win was miraculous because of that goalie mistake that Romo was able to capitalize on. But you know what? That's what the basketball, which was called tequila football in Spanish, is all about. It's about defending well, crowding the midfield, and finding opportune goals. And
But
that was
would you say
that.
it was a fracaso, Albert? Would you qualify this quarterfinals
No,
defeat
no, no,
to
no,
England
no, because
3-2 in the Azteca as
because
a fracaso?
like I said, it's over. We Mexico overachieved. I mean, when you looked at the analysis and the banter pre the game in the lead up to the game with England, what was everybody talking about? Altitude. They weren't talking about Mora. They weren't talking about Raul. They were talking about the altitude. So that's what Mexico didn't have a talented as talented a squad as England. So to
You're
me,
That's very true.
they overachieved. They overachieved.
I wouldn't say they
This
overachieved. I'd say they were bang average. They did enough not to give us too much dishonor, not to dishonor the fans who poured their hearts out this summer. They were just
Rifado,
flooding the
Rifado,
streets. Go ahead.
if you compare this team, like let's just go back 12 years to the 2014 team or to even to the 2018, it was it was those were much better teams, and I think those teams could have they could have beaten England in El Azteca. This team, like they say, le salió barata because they lost 3-2. But you know what? The red card conditioned England, and they had to step back. But if they would have, it would have been 11-11. They probably would have scored a couple more.
Yeah, the
So
fact of the matter is that this squad is nowhere near as good as the squad that had players like Giovanni Dos Santos, Carlos Vela, Chicharito. Like we're just not near that level. And I'm
or
not.
even in the 2014 team, like even if they would have had, imagine that 2014 team with Bella facing this England team, I guarantee you they beat them.
I don't know. I don't know because I thought we played well as a unit in this tournament, in spite of our lack of talent. We just don't have the players in the best leagues. And some would argue,
Well,
and the romantic in me would argue that you don't need players in Europe because, as history will show us, we've been the most successful with a domestic base. And
but
so uh huh.
Rifado, what were one of the flaws that Mexico had in this game? It was the errors, particularly in the first two goals. Those errors come because the Mexican players were falling under pressure. They were already feeling the heat from a far more physical and faster English team. And how did you get experience with those pressure situations? By competing in the top leagues, by being in the EPL, and the decision, what they call it, decision day, or by being in the Champions League knockout stages, or
Well,
even I don't
historically,
want to seem like
we
a boomer, but even Copa Libertadores,
yeah, that's what I
sometimes
was gonna say.
even
We
those
we had
pressure
that we had those
situations.
litmus tests, but we don't have those anymore, and that's true. That is a fair
And
point.
that's why it's important to have these guys in Europe playing in those high pressure situations,
No, no,
so
no,
that those
but
tools.
you defeat your own argument because you mentioned Copa Libertadores, and then we can just aggregate, consistent
But
Copa America. Like those are high pressure moments that could help us, but we don't have those anymore. But
we don't have
the
those.
point that I'm
Excellent.
trying to make
At the minimum, Copa Libertadores.
is
At
that
the minimum.
high level competition, you don't need to be in Europe, is what I'm trying to say. I know it's not as high as Europe.
It's a preferable. Libertadores is good, but you need these guys. Tell me if Lira and Gilberto, obviously Gilberto 17, if they would have had that European experience, things would have been a little different. They don't have, Edson has the European
Well,
experience, but
it's impossible for Mora
we'll
to
talk
have
about we'll,
to have
yeah,
European
I know,
experience.
I know.
He's
Yeah,
17.
yeah.
He
I'm
can't
just
play over
saying.
there.
Yeah. But okay, let's go to the other guys. A Romo with I just named Mora because he got roughed up in that play. But let's say a Romo and a Lira with with that European experience, those gaps to or are less likely to occur. But you know what? Edson has played in European ball, and that guy keeps screwing up. But we'll talk about him a little later on.
Yeah. So like there is obviously a gulf. Like we're worlds apart in player quality. We don't have a world beater like Bellingham, who like if you give him half a chance, he's gonna score a goal. And in the first half, he was given two half chances or barely two chances, and he scored two
I mean,
goals.
the closest thing we had to a game breaker, it was Quinones, and he's a naturalized player. And then, but you know what?
He's a player
He could only get
In
us.
the Arabic league. He's not even in Europe.
Yeah, exactly, and he could only get us so far because they were closing. They
He
knew to close down on him, and then by the end of the game, he was. That's why they took him out. There were a lot of people saying like, "Oh, Bosco screwed up by taking him." No, he was tired. He was already huffing and puffing. Like the guy was carrying Mexico's offense on his back for the last 5 games. I mean,
I just want to
there
ask
wasn't
you
much
one
he could
thing.
do.
One thing. Do you think that Vasco chose the right tactics for this match? And then follow up. Has he chose the right tactics for every match coming up to this World Cup match? Like from the start of the World
Definitely,
Cup
definitely,
till now. Did he choose the right
definitely,
tactics?
because yeah, because what we're seeing right now, the lack of talent. So he adjusted to what he had. So what he had was a team that was able to buy into his idea of defending well, crowding the mid crowding the midfield and looking for goals which way they can. As you saw, they got a couple rebounds or they got that gift from the Korean goalie, and that's the way basketball is, and that's what the team was capable with this the talent level that they had. That's what they were capable of. Maybe the only questionable part is those last 20 minutes against England where
Yeah.
Basco goes in, throws in three center forwards, and they just try to they try to. It wasn't even crosses from the last line. It was diagonal crosses or trying to just lob the ball in, and it wasn't happening against those towers. It was he needed to be more frontal. I mean, to me, I would have liked Luis Chavez to come in because he's insistent. He's sharp
He's a
and
dead ball
he's
specialist.
a dead ball specialist, and he could blast it from outside the box. So that could unsettle that formidable English block, which they defended so well that could have unsettled them. And then for Gallardo, it was. I think the obvious change should have been Mateo Chavez. That Mateo Chavez had speed and he could get to the last line and he could put the he could really do some damage
He wasn't even
to the.
subbed on, man, and he was coming
He
off
wasn't
from
even
a
subbed on.
wonderful
Yeah,
game against Czech where he scored the first goal in our 3-0 rout of the
and you
Chechians. And so
and you know what?
I do
Yeah,
question that call
and you
as
know what?
well.
Also, Ormiga should have got in. It was either Ormiga for Memo. It would have
So
been
I don't know about
Ormiga for
Ormiga,
Santi.
man, because I'm a Chiva, hermano, I'm a
He
Chivista
would
at
have been much
heart.
better than Santi.
Yeah,
Santi was never consistent this World Cup.
he is, but I don't know if he was the answer. The fact of the matter is before he went to La Selección, he was in a rut. He was in a goal scoring rut. He wasn't in the best form. He started off this season amazing. This tournament for Chivas, he was great.
Hey, but that's how goal scorers are. Goal scorers are.
So he wasn't in his best
They're
moment. So
streaky.
I
But they're
could
streaky.
understand why Vasco didn't go for him. He's the youngest guy. This is a big moment, and
But did
he
he look
wasn't
at
in
him
best
after the
form.
game? He was emotionally charged. Like the guy, you could tell those tears were not about so much the elimination that they were about feeling helpless. Like you weren't able to help out. That I
So,
think the guy he would have done much better than Santi. I'll tell you that.
in hindsight, we can say this. Generally, I want to
We
say
could play a
that
Monday morning quarterback, but you know.
yeah, yeah. But Vasco, I think generally he got the tactics right. So many will crucify him for that,
Yeah, definitely.
tragic end
Yeah, definitely,
against England.
definitely.
But the fact of the matter
Like
is that like we don't have like world beaters. Like who is gonna go ahead and
exactly,
unlock a
exactly.
low block for England, with
Yeah,
like some
definitely.
players that are 6'7"? I just don't see anyone who's gonna take on some of the best defenders in the world for the EPL and some other top tier clubs in Europe. You
That's
know,
true, but you could have at least you could have at least tried something else than just lobbing the ball to those towers. It was
yeah, I
that
didn't think
was
that was a
just.
smart move by him, but we talked about the
Look, Rifado,
limitations of the squad, and
look, Rifado, man.
it lacked a real like dual winner. Like Quinones is our
Yeah,
only is our
yeah,
only difference maker.
a guy that could unlock that low block that you're talking about. A
You,
guy,
you, you know
but
they
look, Rifado,
go on.
my friend who's not really a soccer expert, he he told me these exact same things I'm talking about how it was ridiculous that they were trying to lob the ball in. Why not try to play it on the ground, try to attack from the side, get penetration from the sides instead of
You know, we
pretty
try to
much
do that.
just giving the ball away.
We try to do that. Like I think one of the most important moments is of course like one of the most tragic, and that's Gilberto Mora in the lead up to the second goal. They just scored on us because Jorge Sanchez and Piojo Alvarado, they didn't get their late man in Jude Bellingham, who made a late run on the left hand in our right hand side, and scored the first, right. And we were all really excited to take it back to the English, the fans and the players alike. And Gil Mora took the ball, and he did a very naive move in trying to take on two players, and it didn't work. And the 17-year-old fell on his ass, and he lost the ball, and then boom, Jude Bellingham's in on goal, scores the second, and just like
You
that,
know what,
the game's tossed on its head.
Rifado?
Uh huh.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
but but but
One
but
of the
that's
things
a
I was, but one of the things was saying also when talking about some of the blunders Aguirre could have. I think yeah, he looked good against Ecuador, but I don't think Mota should have started this game. It was literally he's still a boy. He was not
but
ready
but but you know well,
for prime
he
time.
he was
That and you
starting.
saw what you just
He
described. What you just described was exactly why I would have not put it in. I
so
didn't want to put him in, and that's exactly what happened.
we're talking about players that like we were talking about trying to unlock that British defense with like two por two, or like good football, protagonistic football, and we tried it, and they scored two goals on us. you know so like I that wasn't the route for us to find victory, because every time we did it, like we would get exposed. And so there was a really telling moment late on where we're one man up, right, and England still has the ball, they still holding possession, and we're trying to win it back so we can tie it up, man. We're 2-3, and we are Mexico was one man up, and we try to pressure them, and they play through our press, and they're in on goal. And like I don't know, I forgot, like they went wide or someone made a save. But
But
like this
Rifado,
team is so
I
good that
think
they
right.
played through our press, even though we had the numerical advantage. And so like what I'm trying to say is that like people will criticize Vasco for like not trying to play like total football or jogo bonito, or
Right.
protagonistic football, but the fact of the matter is that we did try, and every time we tried it, it fell on our, it blew up in our face,
Yeah.
and
No,
we were
you know
exposed.
what? My only gripes with them are like I told you the last 20 minutes and starting Mora. I think had Mora come on in the second half, it would have been it would have been fresher legs. He would have gotten tired and he would have not gotten roughed up.
So
But
I agree.
totally agree. I totally agree with your take. I agree with your take.
I agree in that maybe Brian Gutierrez would have been a better option, because he comes on and he immediately wins us a penalty, right? He goes for the ball, and then he nicks the ball away from the defender, and the defender gets him instead of the ball, and then boom, and that's two big moments for the Pocho, Brian Gutierrez from Chirac.
But you know what? Something about Brian. I was gonna talk about it a little more later, but let's talk about it right now. I think the whole World Cup he had stage fright. It was like so he comes on and when he's I don't know cuando va a iniciar y va a ser el saque inicial, he instead of passing it to a teammate, he kicks it forward, and they have to turn it over to England. So that guy, he was shaky. He was shaky all World Cup. He's like but yeah, he did produce that play with the
And he also
with
won us the red
penalty.
card against South Africa, which I thought was really
Yeah,
important, because it helped us put the game away. Right, that's when
yeah,
we were able to put
absolutely.
that game on ice. So
No,
I thought he had
you're
important
absolutely right.
moments, but the thing about Brian is that he's not a starter for Chivas, and it's for the same reasons, man.
No.
He gives the ball away. He produces a lot of chances, but he can't quite. He's not quite the top
And
level
and
yet.
and
But uh
Rifado, let's not forget the guy coming into the World Cup. He only had 7 caps under his belt, and he got called up before even he became a starter with Chivas. So I guess if you get somebody of benefit of the doubt, is definitely Guti.
Yeah, he's young. I think he's only 22 years old. So I definitely see
22.
him.
Okay.
Yeah, I see him returning. Chicago native from the Chicago Fire. I think he's a great player, and I'm excited to see what he can do from here on out for both Chivas and La Selección. I'm glad we capped him, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, maybe in hindsight he would have been a better option, but it's easy to say this now. In the moment, Mora was coming off of a fantastic game against the Czechs, and you got to play the hot hand, and that's exactly what Vasco did. So I can't fault him his tactics. I thought he did what he could with what he had, and I think that's great. I think we were so close to taking it to the England to the English and making history, but unfortunately,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, you know, um, I saw a
We'll have to
difference.
wait.
We were gonna have to wait, but I saw someone say, like, they did a variation of the old saying, "Jugamos como nunca." I mean, y perdimos como siempre. And
Yeah.
I forgot what they said. They said, "Jugamos como." No, I actually, you know what? I forgot I said that. Let's just move on. So what else did
All
you
right.
have on the docket for us?
Okay. Let's go to something I'm looking forward. Heroes and villains. So let's start with the heroes, and we have to. I mean, you when you're talking about bright spots for Mexico in this World Cup, you have to talk about Julian Quinones. It was very his call up was very controversial because obviously some fans and some people in the media didn't want naturalized players. But when it comes to naturalized players in el three, I think Quinones set the bar real high. I said it a little earlier. He carried the offense. He had characteristics that Mexico doesn't have. He has speed. He's got power. He was a battering ram through lines, and he scored 4 goals. I mean, he tied Luis Hernandez single World Cup record in '98. So I
4 goals
definitely
in one World Cup.
yeah, you can't say enough about Quinones. He was just spectacular, and I know I got some slack on X, but I said he was the best Colombian player in the World Cup, especially over Luis Diaz. I mean,
Yeah,
night
you
and day.
you might be right. I do think he is definitely a hero, and he is. I think the Arabic League's top scorer, 365 Sport. What are they called? They're called 365 Scores Mexico. Um, they reported that Chelsea made a bid for him, so we'll see if that comes into fruition. I think a lot of people saw him on the biggest stage, which is of course the World Cup, and are really interested in him because he's a fantastic player. Like you said, fast as fuck. He's got intangibles that we don't often see in Mexico, and this squad
Nope.
sure as shit doesn't have. So he's fast, he's strong, he's got a good eye for goal, and he's won everything in Mexico. He's been in the country since I think like 16, 17 years old, married to a
Since
Mexican
17, yeah,
woman.
yeah. So definitely, yeah.
Doblete, historic doblete with Atlas, and then what's it called, doblete with Club
Doblete with
America.
America.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
So a guy who
Yeah.
who won, two dobletes with two different clubs. I think the more important one or the is the Atlas one because they went like 70 plus years without winning it, and so he finally
Yeah.
broke the curse because these guys are kind of losers. Let's be real. And I might be speaking with a little Chiva bias there,
Oh,
but
definitely,
yeah.
definitely.
So he's a
I don't
hero,
blame you though. I don't blame you.
and then I'm gonna give you three heroes that I think were just consistently really great, and that's
All right.
Johan Vasquez, Eric Lira, and Piojo Alvarado.
Oh
Heroes.
man, let's go. Look, obviously, Vasquez. But you know what? I thought Vasquez. He underwhelmed. I think he underwhelmed, but he was bad. I really was expecting him to have like a breakout, like to really establish himself as the next Rafa. But he was solid. He was solid, and obviously he switched pairings with when Montes got the red card, and then when Montes got injured, he had to play with Edson, who we'll talk about right now. But I think he did good. But Lira, man, Lira, he established himself.
Hold on
I
one,
think
one,
he
one,
was.
one second before you go to Lira. I just want to say one thing about Vasquez. I just want to say all three England goals came from the right side, so not not Vasquez's side. The first one was right back Jorge Sanchez and Piojo Alvarado forgetting their mark. Second one was Mora eating shit or shitting the bed, pooping the bed, I should say, in the right side of the midfield. And then the third goal comes from like a ball that Edson and Kane are disputing, and it bounces off of Edson's head onto Kane's, I think, like head and then arm. So that's why it wasn't a
We'll talk
handball.
about that right now.
And
We'll talk about it right now.
but Vasquez had no part in the blunders against England. I think he's a hero. I think he's consistently good, a captain of Genoa. I think he's got another World Cup in him. I think he's 28.
Yeah, like I don't knock on him. I was just expecting. I was really expecting a little more from him, but he wasn't bad. But Lira, man, Lira was a pitbull, man. He came out of practically came out of nowhere because that was Edson's spot. He came out of nowhere. He's a pitbull. He was shadowing guys. He was fighting for every ball. But most importantly, something that Edson couldn't do, he was making the ball circulate. He was helping out the offense, and he was an all-terrain vehicle. And hopefully he gets that move to Europe because he's gonna be one of the linchpins for the next cycle.
Yeah.
And
So
then
hold on. Let me just get my lick in for Lira, please. So 365 scores. Mexico is saying that a French team is in on what's it called, Lira, and that is Troyes, which is owned by Manchester City, like that group, City Group. And so I don't think it's gonna manifest in this case, but I do think he's wonderful. I think he's amazing. I thought like it's not easy to dethrone Edson Alvarez, our captain, in that sixth position in front of the center backs, but that's exactly what Lira did. And
Well, I think it was more because of his hierarchy, but it was just like Thanos would say, I'm inevitable, and that's what he was.
he was, man, and in the sense that he is a two-way player, but I thought he was a little bit exposed under Jude Bellingham. I thought Jude got the better of him a few times, and then Declan Rice as well. But
But let's remember, you know what? But overall, like
yeah.
let's go back to the South Africa game. I think it's the first goal, the Julian Quinones goal.
Mhm.
He dislodges from his position, and he recovers the ball outside the box, and that's the first score of the World Cup for Mexico. So that guy could do a lot of things. Yeah,
I agree.
he got a little exposed versus England, but you know what? Like I told you, it was apples to oranges. England is just they're ranked number 4 for a reason. Their players play
You
in
know,
UPL, the best league. So obviously, it was expected. But like I said, hopefully Lira and some other guys could make the jump to Europe to gain that experience,
I
to
think
get
he's
those
too
pressure
old. I
situations.
think he's too old.
He's 20. Yeah, I think he's 26. So I don't see him going to a top club, but maybe a mid-level team.
I think there's rumors of him going to Monterrey as well. So 15
Oh
mil,
yeah, Monterrey.
20 mil.
Yeah, they want to play 20 mil. Yeah. But hopefully it doesn't happen. Hopefully he has more.
I think
But who
that's more
knows?
likely.
Like remember Peralta. Peralta also he came on in his late
Late bloomer.
20s,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, he didn't want to go suffer in Europe for half pay. So we don't know what Lita's thinking.
Yeah,
So,
but
but all the best to him. It was a. I think he had a great tournament.
I will say this about Lira is that when he went up against some of the best midfielders in the world, I didn't think the difference was that great. I thought, he was outnumbered sometimes. If you gotta try and get the best of Jude Bellingham and someone like Declan Rice, you're gonna have your hands full, right? But I do think he did a good job going toe to toe with some of the best midfielders in the world. So,
And let's talk about talking about going to toe. Let's talk about El Piojo.
oof,
Everybody, people that don't know ball, they didn't know how to appreciate Piojo. And Piojo wasn't there to be a offensive dynamo. He was there to do the dirty work. He was there to fulfill a need for El Vasco, and he did it tenfold. He was spectacular on the right side when he needed to cover, especially when they would overload to the left. And then in the last two games, when Vasco asked him to play inside, He was just he was just very good. But I mean, if you just measure him by how many times he flew down the right and threw
He did have a
defensive
fantastic
crosses.
cross to Raul Jimenez in the first half, man. I thought that was going in, but that
But with Aguirre Rifado, he wasn't spectacular. But Aguirre did not put him in there to be spectacular. He
I,
put him to
I, I disagree,
fulfill a
man.
need,
I
and
thought he
he
was
did.
spectacular. I thought he was spectacular. He got three
Oh, but
assists
I'm just saying.
in
I'm just
five
saying.
matches,
I'm
man.
going by the critiques of Rifado. There was some saying that Sendejas would have done much better because Sendejas
I would have liked
Aguirre
Sendejas. I would have. Don't get me wrong. I would have liked Sendejas there. But you know, to tell you how good and how threatening Piojo was, and how important he is to our attack, they had two guys on Alvarado most of the match. So that just goes to show you, man, what a threat he was, and that's part of how they beat us, man. Because I thought our
No,
biggest creative outlet was Piojo, and yeah, he was also putting in a defensive shift, but he like our attack
but
sprung from his
agree to
legs.
disagree, Rifado. I think his he earned his pay with the 30 work. But you know what? We both agree that he had a hell of a tournament.
Yeah, a hero for sure. But if that's
Let's
all
talk
you got,
about villains. Let's go to the villains.
yeah, let's
Let's
go
not
into the
get happy.
villains.
Let's talk about villains.
Tell me your
All right,
villains, please.
I'm gonna lay it on Edson, man. It's just the guy is not who everybody built him up to be a generational guy. He's an average player, man. Every World Cup he has commit blunders. I mean, let's go back. Yeah, he was around 20 against Sweden in the loss against Sweden in the last group stage match in 2018. But he creates a blunder that cost Mexico a goal. Let's move forward
Hold on.
to
I gotta get my
2022.
licks in on Machine, man. So I will agree.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
is a villain. In the sense that he was lauded as like as like a bright spot for so many years by the Mexican media. And I think he
but that's what
debuted.
I'm going at.
Yeah, he debuted
Yeah,
at 18 for in Russia, and under Osorio, and he played as a right back then. But
yeah.
he won a
He
championship
debut
with
a
Club
brother in that
America.
game.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and but he went on to be champion with Club America. Then he goes to Ajax, and he does pretty good there. Some people criticize him. Some in the Dutch media thought he was kind of lackluster in attack, facilitating the attack. But I thought overall he was good in Ajax. He goes to West Ham, does pretty good, but then um, West Ham does kind of go to the dogs, but he wasn't really putting in good shifts. He's in Turkey, but he gets injured in Turkey. They buy another six. They obviously don't have him in his plans. He's not really playing, and yet he's our captain. And it's like for a while Vasco's trying to fit him on the field somewhere, but it's like who does he
And what
displace? No one.
But if I what I was going at is like if you look at the at least when it comes to World Cup, he's underperformed that Sweden game, and then we go to the 2022 that game against that game against Poland, which causes Tata to leave him on the bench against Argentina. And then this game where then this World Cup, obviously he wasn't going to play. I mean, Lira had displaced him, but Montes had the red. Then he got injured. He got playing time, but I know everybody was crucifying Portala for causing that penalty kick by coming outside. But you know what? Well, a lot of people fail to realize is that Edson set him up, put him out to die. Edson, I don't. Like you said, Edson has all that European experience. He's 28, third World Cup, and when he went to contest that ball with Harry Kane, he was scared. He dipped his head. Come on,
It
that's
was an
not
unlucky bounce.
guy.
I wouldn't crucify him for that
But
mistake. That was
no,
just an unlucky
that's what I'm
bounce
saying.
because he got to it.
He should have. He
He
should have been
he
more
still
firm.
got
I
to it.
mean,
He got to it, and then
because
it just bounced weird.
but because he messed up, he set up Portala to die.
I wouldn't say that.
You know,
He has a fucking
he set
albino
up
gorilla on his back,
Rifado.
bro. He had an albino gorilla
He set up
gripping
to
at him,
die.
dude.
The guy's not a rookie.
Harry
He's
Kane
not
is
a
strong as
rookie.
fuck, dude.
But he's not a
Tall and strong.
rookie.
I know he's not a
He's
rookie.
played in the
You know,
he's
um,
played in the EPL.
I know
He's
he's
played
played in
against
the
top
EPL,
guys.
but
He should have had more.
Harry Kane is a level above whatever the fuck Alvarez.
He should have come out
his best,
He should have come up with authority.
the best version of El Machin comes nowhere near Harry Kane. You know, so like, you know, I'm not surprised that
Still,
Harry Kane got the best.
but I wasn't. We're not asking him to play out the ball to with the skills. We're just asking him to, show some fortitude and contest the ball. That's all he had to do. And you know what? He dipped his head. He looked like a rookie. Portala pay the price.
I will say he's a villain because he's supposed to be our captain, and I don't think he did
Yeah,
a very good job as our
He was a
leader.
generational guy.
Yeah,
And honestly, I don't
he was forced in
everybody
that
was there.
position. He shouldn't. He had no business being in that position.
Yeah, they were just trying to find a spot for him because Lita relegated him to the bench. But honestly, I don't know. He's 28, but I don't know if he makes the next World Cup. I don't know.
I
We
think
kind
there's
of
a strong possibility. He's got a European passport, and I think his future is at center back. So
but
we'll
yeah,
see. We'll
maybe.
see. 32,
We'll talk about
33.
it right now. We'll talk about how the center back position is going to look under Marquez. But yeah, I could see him fitting him in. And let's go for one last villain, Jorge Sanchez. I know a lot of fans, a lot of experts didn't want him to even go to the World Cup. And I think against England and some of the other games he played, he showed why not. That guy's a defense. Luckily, he had el Piojo, putting on the overall and working because if not, that right flank would have been more exposed. But Jorge Sanchez, I think, I think that game against England should be his last his last game with El Tri, considering you have options like Julian Araujo and Ledesma. So I think
Huescas as well,
Jorge
man.
Sanchez.
In
Yeah,
Copenhagen.
you have options. You have options. Yeah, you have options. So I think we may have seen the end of Jorge Sanchez. We just let's face it.
Hopefully,
He's
man. Hopefully, he
not a good player.
I don't know what Vasco saw in him. I do blame him in the first goal against England. He's been lackluster for a long time. He's never learned to cross. You know, he's definitely my pick for one of the villains. He had no business being in that lineup. And I remember him in Europe. I think it was for Porto. There was reports like Portuguese people being like, "What is this guy doing here? He has no business playing for this team." Porto is a big club in Portugal. You know, second only to Benfica.
They're a champion. They're a Champions League team.
Yeah, Mourinho,
They're a frequent
Mor-
competitor. Yeah.
Mourinho's first love or first successful love, I should say. But yeah, I do think Jorge Sanchez fucking tronco. But my villain, I never rated this guy, and it's Montes, man. I thought he had no business starting against England. He was obviously injured. He should have subbed himself out. You know,
Rifado, what surprised me more was that they even gave him the captain band with Vasquez there. It's like, what's going on here,
it's
man?
a waste of a sub, man. You know, he was obviously not fit, and he was subbed off. Like sometimes you have to protect the player from himself, and Vasco, he's lauded as like this
Yeah,
veteran,
that's
so
another blunder. He should have not started him. Yeah.
he should not have started him. The pace that England has, Israel Reyes should have been on there somewhere as a center back, as a right back, and he wasn't. And then Montes was exposed against South Africa in our first game, and we were one man up, and or two man up. We were two men up, and somehow South Africa ends up on a counterattack, and they get the best of Montes because he's slow AF. This guy,
Right, because he's a liability when Mexico had to settle back in defensive position.
yeah,
He was a liability.
he's too slow.
He was a tronco. He's a tronco too.
Yeah,
He's a tronco.
he's a tall guy, good positioning, good headers, but he's slow, and he was exposed by South Africa. He fouls him, he gets a red, gets sent off. We get Edson. I thought we looked better with Edson, but he made his way back,
Yeah.
and I thought he
Play
was
the
wasted.
sad horn. Let's play the sad horn for all our villains.
Oh, I chose the wrong one, bro. And but yeah, I think that's all for our villains. What else did you have on the docket for us, Albert?
So with the end of the World Cup, that brought an end to El Vasco's third stint with El Tri, and everybody started talking about his legacy. You know what? I was disappointed after the 2002 loss against the USA because I think that he gave he his tactical moves just gave up they gave up the game. And against I guess you know what and then against Argentina in 2010, a lot of people hang him out to dry for because of putting in a buff against Argentina, but you know. Carrillo even says that Buffalo looked good in practice, and the guy just didn't deliver. But I think, but if there was one blunder in that World Cup that he should be blamed for, was for putting Grandpa Cuauhtemoc Blanco into against Uruguay, and then practically the loss pretty much screwed them up, going for first place in the group, and that's how they ended up playing Argentina instead of Korea. So I would blame him more for that than El Bofo. And this World Cup, like I said, he came in. They asked him to turn Mexico into a respectable team, to not get embarrassed, and that's what he did. Everybody had fun.
I had fun.
Everybody showed optimism. Everybody was vibing, and he did his job. I mean, would we have liked Mexico to get farther? Yeah, but you know what? It wasn't in the cards, and
Unfortunate.
I don't think
We were very
outside
close.
of those 20 outside of those 20 minutes, but which I think those last 20 minutes against England, which I think could have been handled better. I think he did well. He knew what he had, and most importantly, he showed his experience and who he is, and he got the players to buy in, to do the dirty work, to fight, to play as a collective unit, and they showed that on the field. And when you combine that with the career he has in Europe, where obviously his big team experience was with Atletico, and he didn't last long there. But you know what? He 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 has a niche in Spain, which is to save teams, and he's been very well, and he's been the only Mexican coach to have a career to really have a lengthy career outside of Mexico. Remember, he also coached Japan, and
Egypt.
he coached Egypt, and now I'm hearing rumors that Korea might be interesting. So you know what? I'm okay with Vasco. I think he is the best Mexican coach of all time.
I would agree. I would agree. The thing about Vasco is that his relationship with the Mexican national team is not perfect. You went into great detail. Some questionable choices in the past, some questionable choices at the tail end of this era. But overall, I think I would go so far as to say is that he is Mexico's most successful coach ever in all of our history. And you were mentioning it. He coached Atletico de Madrid. He got Osasuna to a Copa del Rey final. He got Mallorca to a Copa del Rey final. No easy task. I would say the Osasuna one was harder because about 4 or 5 years ago, La Liga in Spain, they made like some of the knockout rounds one-legged. So like back in the day, you had to get through two legs of either Barcelona or Real Madrid to even get to the final, because they were always seated on opposite brackets. And so to get to a final, you had to get the best of Real Madrid or Barcelona, home and away. And that's what he did with Osasuna. I forget who. And now you just have to beat them sometimes at home. That's where you have teams like Real Sociedad or Betis and I think Athletic Bilbao win these Copa del Reyes in recent times, because it's like formatted where it's like a one-off and anyone can win those. And so
But again, Rifado, like I said with El Tri, those teams are limited in talent. El
yeah,
Tri was limited in talent. But you know what? Like I said, El Vasco, he implemented his style, and it's good for being respectable. And what more can you ask for, given
I
the situations?
I agree. I agree. He's a bombero. He's the guy that Spanish clubs and Spain can look anywhere in the world, but they look to El Vasco a lot of the time to save them from descending, or they want him to play in the Segunda with them and get them up. And he's a bombero, man. He's the guy you call when you're in crisis, and that's not an easy job. And so
He's a guy that when you need to squeeze juice from the rocks.
yeah, yeah. And we had three coaches this cycle. We had Coca, we had Jimmy Lozano, and who were both busts. and then we brought in Vasco, and he was able to band together this
He was a
team.
he was he was a miracle worker, a
Uh,
miracle. Because you know what?
we were getting grouped,
One
yeah.
thing that I pointed out, one thing that I pointed out in my article in the LA Times about how Obed and Brian Gutierrez are signaling a new era for the three was was that El Basso went against his usual approach. He wasn't too keen on starting young guys. If you look at his when he benched Ochoa for Conejo prior to the 2010 World Cup, it's just he didn't have confidence in young players. But you know what? In this cycle, maybe also he didn't have no other choice because we were the Mexico was pretty depleted, telling us. But you know what? He showed confidence in a Guti and a Mora, and Reyes. So he strayed away from his because that's one of the things that has also characterized his career. He's adaptable. So kudos to him. I don't have
Many
any knock on him.
many will say that that was due to Rafa Marquez, and I guess we'll never know. Marquez, his era's just begun, and I'm looking forward
We'll
to
talk
it.
about Marquez right now.
Yeah, yeah. Let's hop right to it.
Well, let's hop Marquez. What could we expect from the Rafa Marquez era? Well, what we saw just recently is he's not going to be real friendly with the media. He was walking through the airport. I think he was going to go to Spain to work some things out, and he didn't say what. He just ignored the reporters. So I think that's going to set the tone for the relationship. Playing wise, well, he hasn't coached in a top flight league, so he has brief experience. His brief experience becomes with El Barça B, which is Barça Athletic, which is Barcelona's feeder team, and he did quite well. I mean,
they're in the
he
third
beat
division.
in the third division. Okay, sorry about that. Third division. He debuted Lamine Yamal, so he knows how to produce players. And as far as tactics, he likes to work with El Atletico, with El Barça Athletic. He was working out of a 4-3-3, and while Barcelona's philosophy of positional tactics, they were present. What a lot of people describe was that there was a lot of La Volpe influence, which is playing starting the offense from the back line through the from the goalie through the center defenders through the sides. So we're gonna see compared to El Vasco's scrappy soccer, we're gonna see a more elaborated approach, especially when it comes to generating offense. And
So
it's going to be interesting, and it's
it,
going to
it
be
it
very
it is going to be
interesting
interesting,
how
but I don't know if
everything
I
goes.
would attribute it to La Volpe. I would say his possession style is more, having to do with La Masia and total football
Oh
and.
yeah, yeah. Like I told you, he implements stuff from Barca's philosophy, which was passed along by Johan Cruyff,
But
and
did he
he saw
even
it
really play
firsthand.
with La Volpe? I know he coached Mexico for a little
Yeah,
bit,
yeah, yeah.
but was he not last with him?
He was. Yeah, he was an Atlas. He was the part of the greatest team not to win a title.
Dang, dang.
The
The
greatest
more you know.
Yankees. So he knows him. He didn't debut him, but he was the from quarterbacking the offense from the back. That was Rafa with the long passes to the front, lobbing the passes. That was Rafa was doing that with Atlas. So he has a lot of La Volpe influence, and like I told you, it starts from him wanting his teams to generate the offense from the back and not through positional tactics like is Barca tradition. So it's a blend of both styles, and it's going to be interesting. And another thing, so this team he's gonna renovate the team to fit his needs. And
I,
another
I
thing,
just want to add one thing about his Barca B career. He was in the final, I believe, to get promoted to the Segunda with Barca B.
yeah,
They've been in Segunda. They were in Segunda for a long time, but then they fell to the Tercera, and he was going to bring them up, and they lost to Cordoba in one of the playoffs for Asensio and Ascension or whatever. And what's it called? I saw the game, and it was it was very chippy, and I thought Cordoba got away with too much. They fouled the shit out of Barca B, and that's what got them the win. I would say, from what I remember seeing. So I thought he was
But you
unlucky
know what,
not to ascend.
Rafa showed in that brief time with Barca B, he showed some promising stuff, and like I told you, obviously he knows how to work with the youth players, and he's gonna have to renovate El Tri, not just because some players are getting older, but because he's gonna implement his style. Like a Montes is not gonna fit into to his philosophy of building from the back. Like that guy is just hapless when it comes with the ball to his feet. So I see a Vasquez, I see Mateo Chavez falling in there, and then you know what? They say that he wants to make Barcelona El Tri play like Barcelona. So
I
so
would
why
love
not
that, man.
why not
Oof.
but so why not think Rifado? Why not think that, let's say, Guti, Mora, and Obed could be Mexico's Iniesta, Xavi, and Deco? What do you think?
I don't even want to compare it to that, man. But I do want to see us try to play a protagonist style and not betray that against the big dogs, and that's dangerous. That's playing with fire. But
But you
I
know what? That's one of the benefits advantages that a long process gives you.
yeah, that's true.
He's gonna have time to work.
Is he though?
Because
Is he? Mexican media is fucking
hopefully he is. But you know
brutal.
what? But you know what? If Mexico sacks him, he's gonna get paid all his contract. So I don't think Mexico wants to pay him all those 4 years. All those 4 years by having him, getting rid of him after Copa Oro. I think it's gonna be like when let me tell you, like when La Volpe came in, right after 2002, it was the same situation. There were a lot of older guys who just didn't fit into, either they were coming to the end of their careers or they just didn't fit into La Volpe style, and I think it's gonna be the same it's gonna be the same with Rafa. They're gonna work with the young guys because they're moldable. Because it seems like it seems like Rafa's a disciplined guy, so he's gonna want moldable minds, and that's
So,
a young player.
so if I was to
So I see a
describe,
similar situation.
I do I'm excited. And I agree with that assessment. But if I had to describe Rafa in one word, it's revolutionary. And let me explain that. He wanted to start a players union. He wanted to
Yeah,
wrestle power
yeah.
from the owners to the players, like what you see in Europe, right? And it kind of failed. Some would say that it kind of worked, but I think it mostly failed. But like I do see him as like a guy who will forsake money, who will forsake the people in power for football,
Yeah.
and for the players. And that's what I'm
And
most
he's
excited for.
and he's a players coach. And you know what?
Yeah,
Another
he's
thing
he's got a
is that
pedigree to
a
him.
lot
He's,
of
he's
these
got an
players,
aura. Go ahead.
a lot of these young guys, they saw him play. They saw him play. They saw him as one of Mexico's ambassadors, one of Mexico's top guys. A lot of the young guys refer to him as el patron. So he commands respect. And like I told you, he's gonna come in. He's gonna bring in a lot of new guys, and hopefully they let him work. But honestly, like you know how it is, how it is with Mexico soccer. There's a lot of there's a lot of politics, a lot of people that want to favor their
A
sides.
lot of cloak and
You
dagger
know,
shit.
and yeah, they're gonna do that, and like I said, hopefully the suits let him cook. Let's see, give him at least 2 years. Let's see how it goes from here to, let's see if they get invited to Copa America again, and we'll judge from there. But you know
So
what?
so so he has equity, right? He has equity. He's revered. He has the
Yeah,
experience. He's been at the top
yeah.
level. Barcelona, in Champions League treble, I believe.
Like I
Uh,
told you, the only dissent that seems to be happening is by the politics of, the usual politics, the politics that.
that's what I'm getting to. And the thing is that I said it like this is a guy who would forsake money for the players for football, right? And that'll get you fucking fired in Mexico. That'll get you fired,
Yeah.
because it's money first here. It's money
But
first
you know
with
what,
the
Rafa?
FMF.
I think Rafa has a certain clout. I mean, this is not Chepo. This is not Coca. This is Rafa freaking Marquez.
Let me give you a scenario. He
And
tries
he's
something crazy.
and he's not
Oh, oh,
Hugo. And he's not Hugo because you know what, Hugo put a lot of bad faith in himself because talked a lot, and Marquez he doesn't want to talk, so he's not
Yes,
gonna do a lot.
yeah.
He's not gonna bring it on himself.
Hugo, like Chicharito, has what I call diarrhea of the mouth. But but back to Rafa, is that it's money here first, right, and then football. And I can see the integrity of Rafa being like, no, let's do it. And let me give you a scenario. He tries something revolutionary in the sense that he tries to change up the system that the FMF has built, right? By like playing more in Europe, or like I don't know, wanting to play against better opponents, or he's gonna try and change. He's gonna try to shake things up, and if the results don't go his way, the media will turn on him because the media is an arm of the owners. Televisa, some other people, right? Like they can just as easily turn on this guy, and I that's the trouble, man. It's a poison chalice to be Mexican coach. Like you're more criticized as the coach than you are the president of Mexico. So it could go sour for me, Marquez, man. And he doesn't have a lot of experience as a coach, so it is a little bit worrying because I do see him trying to shake things up. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, man, like I tell you, the politics they veer they always try. They always seem to veer their heads. Like with Coca, was because he was from a group that was able to get control, but the rest of the powers that be, they didn't like that. It was
Grupo Orlegui, right?
yeah. He brought in his crew. It didn't sit well, and they used the Nations League to sack him. So anything can happen. But like I
Yeah,
told you,
and what's to
I
say that doesn't
feel
happen
and you
again?
said but Rafa, like you just said, Rifado, he has equity. It's not Coca. It's Rafa freaking Marquez, dude.
Yeah, but also he's a young
And he
coach.
stays quiet.
He, he
He
he's
stays
he, but,
quiet,
but
but
he's a young coach, man. Like one thing I'll say about Vasquez is he knew how to work the media this last time around. He had one hiccup, when he didn't want to talk about ICE or the immigrant issue
yeah,
in the
yeah,
U.S. Or respaldar the people
yeah, yeah,
as they were being
yeah,
persecuted by ICE.
yeah,
And that was disappointing because this is Vasco was someone who played with the Zapatistas, with the EZLN amateur team, and he did
yeah.
so.
That didn't make sense.
Well, yeah. It's like he betrayed who he was by not getting political or being afraid to be political. And it might be that he needed the money. He's like, yo, this is for my grandkids also, you know. So like, it was disappointing in him. But Marquez, he's such a wild card. He's so young as a coach. We don't know how he's gonna really handle the media, and I think the most brutal in the world is the Mexican media. Maybe the British a little bit more, the sun and all that shit. But yeah,
Yeah, maybe. The sun.
I'm looking forward to this new crop of players more than anything, man. There's a lot of guys that didn't make this cut this time around, but like I'm excited for someone like Campillo at Chivas, 24-year-old
Oh yeah,
center back.
definitely.
He's kind of
That's a guy
like
who I
Marquez.
think is gonna fit into that Marquez where he could play. He could create from the back. He could either play. He could either play at center back or he could play at defensive midfielder. That's a guy that I'm looking forward to.
And he's not alone. There's a lot of guys. Montiel. We have Jordan Carrillo. We have Castaneda. Yeah,
Fimbres.
Iker Fimbres at Monterrey. He didn't take
And then about
Cotorro, the left back at Chivas. He didn't take Richie Ledesma, the right back at Chivas. These are really young, talented players.
and then like I told you, we have Julian Araujo who would have who had has who who if he doesn't get injured, he probably would have been on the team.
Yeah, he had a good season for Celtic before his injury.
Yeah,
He was really playing bad for Bournemouth for a while. He wasn't really rated there. Goes out on loan to the Scottish League to play for Celtic. Does well, but unfortunately injured. Same
and
thing
then
with
at
Huescas in
forward,
Copenhagen. Uh,
I'm looking forward to to Salas from El America to see
Pato
how he
Salas,
develops.
he's
Yeah, yeah,
interesting. He's like a Raul regen 9.5.
he could he could hold the he could he's associative and he could hold the ball. That's what I'm but I think the delantero wise Ormiga and Santi, I don't know, man. I don't know about Santi. Does he recover? Does he regain form?
So it's
I
been a
don't know.
year. It's been a year since he scored. Over a year since he scored for in Serie A. He didn't do anything this World Cup except get injured, and I was very frustrated with him. But he did get injured, man. He straight up, I think, broke his ankle or something, fucked it up at the end of that game against England. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think Milan is interested in keeping him. Like I said, over a year without scoring in Serie A. He did have an injury, but he hasn't been the player that lit up Feyenoord in the Dutch league, and maybe it's because he was in the Dutch league, and the defense there is
That's
not
what
as
it is.
good.
That's what it is with those. I was looking at the stat about the last tops. Like there's been a long line in the last years. There's been a long line of top scorers in the Dutch league that they get sold to the EPL to Spain, and they're not able to adjust because let's be real, the Dutch league it's not quite a farmers league, but it's not a very defensively it's not very competitive.
Yeah, yeah. When you get to people like the go ahead Eagles or Go Eagles, and who else, like FC20, where Tecatito used to play, like those teams sometimes they lose like 7-0
Yeah,
to PSV
yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
Ajax. And so yeah, the
But you know
defense
what?
isn't too great there, but we'll see, man. He made it all the way to AC Milan, dude. That you don't do that by accident. There's quality there.
But let's be real. The Serie A, it's not your Serie A of when they had Maldini, when they had
But let's look
all
at his
those guys.
contemporaries. Let's look at his rivals for other teams.
Sure,
They're barely
but let's
hitting.
see.
They're barely
But
hitting
look at
10
the
goals.
but look
The-
at the team. One of the main guys for the team was Pulisic. Come on.
I mean, Pulisic is good. He was good. He had a bad World Cup. I think
Come
I think he had
on.
an injury. He had a stellar season for AC
He's
Milan.
another hype job,
He's
but
a
that's a theme for
champions.
another podcast.
I think he was in the final of the Champions League when Chelsea won it. So I mean, he was kind of a rotational player,
So
but he's good.
so what do you think is his path to be able to rehabilitate his career?
Copa
What do you
America,
think
man.
the
I
team?
I I hear it's in the
No,
works.
but
Oh,
club wise,
oh,
what do you think? He goes
oh,
back
he
to
meant. I thought we were talking
Dutch
about
league?
Rafa Marquez,
No,
but
we're talking about
Jimenez. He needs to play. He needs to go somewhere. I think Nottingham
so what?
Forest was in
Go
for
back to
him.
the Dutch league?
He needs to go anywhere where he's going to play. So do that somewhere in Europe, preferably. I think he's got a European passport, so so a lot of people would like him.
And what about let's talk about Jimenez, man, because that was a point of contention in another chat we had about. I found it laughable that some
Same here, man.
Madridista
He did great.
suggested
He
that
did great.
that he was gonna be in 230. He did great. He was able finally to save face at a World Cup, but do do you think he's gonna be on board for 230? I hope not.
No,
I hope we
absolutely
get a new
not.
position.
No, no. And
I
and
hope
and
not.
the
I hope we're
and
able.
if he is even talked about it, it's just a failure of the FMF and the Mexico developing a real striker, because this should have been his last hurrah. Maybe he gets like a Gold Cup after this or Copa America after this, but
Yeah.
beyond that, I don't see that for him.
I think it would be much more concerning than taking Ochoa to this World Cup because honestly, honestly, when has Mexico even used the second goalie? So it was Tala, and you know what, took Ochoa because of leadership. That's what he did. That's what Vasco did in 2002 with Campos. So it was a big deal. Taking a precious forward spot to take an older forward who we don't even know.
It's not gonna
He's not gonna
happen,
play
man.
top flight. He's not gonna play for the next season. At least he's not gonna play top flight
So
soccer.
I would say the
With Champions.
champions the championship is on par with Liga MX, man, or not far off. It's really good. They have a lot of money, but I don't see them doing that, and I don't see us needing to draw from that well again. With the Jovenes rule, there's a good crop of players developing, and I just don't see I don't see a scenario in which we need to draw from Raul Jimenez. Sh- the president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, was talking about how she wants to open 2,000 football academies. In light
That's
of
great.
yeah, in light of
As
Mexico's
you know what that sounds like? it sounds like Germany's does reboot. That's what
Yeah,
they did. They
and
split a bunch of accounts, and that's great. That's great. And
I
you
don't
know
know if I
what? And
believe it though. We'll see.
but she says she's gonna extend those efforts to the United States.
Yeah.
So it sounds good, and hopefully they come through.
So it sounds like the
Hopefully,
stars are aligning. Like, let's say we open up half of those schools, 1,000 schools. The Hoveness rule that mandates, a certain amount of minutes required by every Liga MX team, like with that, and then the Pocho revelation up north, like we're brewing something, and I'm excited for the future. It
so
was,
hopefully Rifado.
yeah,
So Rifado, they started that reboot after the failure at the 2000 Euro Cup, and then in 14 years they were able to develop Osil, they were able to develop newer, and then they were able to develop Mueller. So hopefully, when they say in 38, was it in 38 the World Cup is going to probably come back to CONCACAF. So hopefully by then we have a team, with our Mueller, with our Osil, and with our newer. So hopefully these plans they come to fruition.
yeah. I do think they're gonna come into fruition. I think we're on the cusp of greatness. I really do. So I'm not at all saddened by our loss to England. I'm excited for the Marquez era. I'm excited for the Jovenazo era. Led
Oh,
by
Rifaldo,
Gilberto Mora.
one last thing. What about goalie? I know some people were crucifying Tala, but you know what? I think Tala did well, especially that Korea with that double save
Me
against
too.
Korea.
Me too. I
think
I
he
do
did
I
good,
do.
and he's only gonna be 30. He's gonna be 30 for next World Cup. Maybe a guy. I think Malagón, he has personal issues. I think he's gonna be a non-factor
Well,
next
there's the
next
guy I think at
tournament.
León, right? The portero at León, who's pretty
El
young,
León,
and then we have
and then the Pachuca Carlos Moreno.
and
So
then Padilla and Athletic Bilbao, Alex Padilla. So
yeah,
like,
well, yeah, we have that guy. Yeah, we have that guy too.
so who knows who becomes the main guy? Right now it's Tala. He had some shaky moments, some deserved criticism. He's my boy. I love him. I think it's his spot to lose.
Well, like if we look at the England game, he had a couple good saves, and like I said, the penalty, that foul, he was handed out to dry.
I disagree, man. I thought he hesitated,
He
bro.
was
I
handed out
thought
to
he
dry.
hesitated and he was slow off his
He was
line,
set
man.
up. He was set up, but
It was
no, it's
unlucky,
all
man.
good,
But
man.
a goalie
But
has
it
to
was
be
one
prepared
play. It
for
was
the
honestly,
unexpected.
it was one flub
That's all it
against
takes, bro. That's all it
Greece.
takes. That's all it takes for us to
But
lose at the highest level.
hey, for a guy that I was saying that should have been on the bench for Ochoa, I think he had a good tournament.
I I agree. I agree. He did have a decent tournament. I would say I would go as so far as to say good because he went 3 games without having a goal scored on him. So
Yeah,
you know, inherently good. He had one mistake against England, and it was
but it's
capitalized.
working because he played a good part.
Oh
I
yeah.
think he played 70 minutes of the Czechia game. So
Oh yeah. Yeah. My bad. My bad. But with that, I'm ready to wrap this episode up. And any closing thoughts?
yeah, definitely.
Uh,
No, I say it's gonna be interesting how this Rafa Marquez era develops, and see how Mexico could go into the 230 World Cup as I don't say a contender, but as a team that shows positive signs of that they can make it past the it's not even the quinto partido more, it's just that horrible round of 16.
I agree. I agree. I'm looking very hopeful. Right now, we're ranked in the FIFA top 10. So if we keep that up, we can look forward to a pot one seed, and that would be great for us, like it was this time. Maybe not as like great as the Azteca at home, with a home crowd, but like you know, um, we could have a good group, and if this thing's only expanding or gonna remain this level, like you know, the cards are in for us to do well. So I'm really looking forward to this, and I'm really looking forward to doing this podcast with you.
So
This is
so let's wrap up this inaugural edition of the Mexican Football Podcast with some drums and
yeah,
some horns.
yeah, and so for our listeners, this is the Mexican Football Pod, and that's the MF Pod. And so yeah, just look out for
And
us on.
a round of applause.
Yes, sir. Yes,
There we
sir.
go.
So just look out for us on Spotify, on YouTube. on what other platforms we're going to be on? Twitter Spaces, Apple Podcasts, and yeah, first of many. Thank you, Albert. I do appreciate
We're
it.
gonna be in your local swap meet.
Yeah, you'll see us there, and hopefully we get together and we do something for Leagues Cup. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah,
I've
definitely.
applied to a few of
And then
those.
with the yeah, yeah, definitely. Then obviously we're gonna be doing an Apertura 2026 preview. So look up for that.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, well, thank you, my mi mas sabio. I do appreciate it, and with that, I'll leave you
Thank you,
guys.
Rifado.
You're very welcome. It's my pleasure. And yeah,
All right.
good evening, everyone.
Stay
Take it easy. Bye
stay
bye.
gold. Stay gold, Rifado. Stay gold.
Stay classy. All right. Ciao, everyone.
Very good.